Hey you guys, alright, back again with my Saturn VUE project. I apologize, it is dark out and I'm having to use the headlamp. My neighbor decided it was a good night to blow his entire yard. I swear, he got done with his yard work and he just kept going and going and going. And then the neighbor's dogs lost their mind and were barking. In fact, here they go again. But I just wanted to show y'all the process I was going through with priming and sanding these guys. This is the one wheel that had the least amount of damage, so it should be the easiest one. But I just wanted to show y'all what I was doing. I found out using this, I had wet dry P800. Apparently the P is more aggressive than regular 800. I have no idea. All I know is this stuff was going hog wild when I was sanding, so I decided I would knock the edge off the sandpaper by sanding the barrels of the wheels first and then move on to the front. So basically I got lucky with this one and they already took off all the wheel weights and everything, so yay there. My other ones I'll have to contend with that later, but considering for the time being I'm hanging on to the tires, I didn't pull off any of the wheel weights. Ideally, that's what you would want to do. But I've got, I started with the etching primer because when I did the repairs, I went down to bare metal in some places. So I went down, like I said, to the bare metal. So then I wanted to use a metal etching primer to make sure I had good adhesion. So I put that on, and then I put on a filler primer to be able to go back over the areas that had low spots to be able to sand out as much as I could. And that worked beautifully. Sanded all that, and then went ahead and used alcohol to clean everything and added 4 cans, mind you, 4 cans of just regular primer that I'm sanding off now. In black, because I had sanded so much of the filler primer and the etching primer down that I burned through in some areas. So I had to go back and coat, but again I wanted to make sure I had good primer on there so that I could sand a lot of the imperfections out and get these wheels at least looking decent. They're not going to be perfect because they were extremely damaged. I would have had to start with basically prime almost new wheels to be able to get a near perfect finish, and then ideally one would want to take them to the powder coater. I may eventually do that with these, but I got quotes and I wanted to experiment with a two-tone. Which I'll go over later, but yeah, it's just to start with 650, just to shoot the black, and I don't know how much they would want to have repaired everything, and then to powder coat over that and add a secondary color. Now I'm getting into brand new wheel territory, so I felt I would just put in my sweat equity into these wheels and do it all myself and see how it came out in regular paint. And so this is the time-consuming part, going through and sanding all the roughness back out of the primer. I'm probably going to paint these in stages. I think I've decided to paint the barrel, tape everything off, and just paint this barrel portion in the backside. And I'm going to go back in this area and go back over it with those Scotch-Brite pads on a drill and get the majority of the paint off. There was just a lot of oxidation and problem areas with the surface that I wanted to fix as well. So the etching primer and everything else, I just let it go down on that surface. And like I say, I'll sand off the majority of it and it won't have any problems when I put it on the car. You don't want excessive buildup in these areas or in the lug nut holes, so it's one of those things that'll give you problems down the line. But yeah, so this is kind of the process. You go back over after you've sanded, and you use your hands to feel if everything's smooth. And obviously this area doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be completely smooth with just paint unless you really just put way too much effort in. But like I say, I got it looking decent. I'm going to spray it down. Hang on, I'm going to pause you while I do that so I don't spray you with water. Alright, this is our important part in getting a nice finish when we sand. To avoid putting any gouges with my hands, I have these little pads. They're normally for putting the sandpaper that's got the Velcro backing on it, but it works fine for this. You can just fold it over. And yeah, I got a glove on one hand. One of the kitties and I, he got scared while I was trying to give him a pill and he bit my finger, so I'm trying to keep from introducing any contaminants into that finger while I'm doing this. But I'm using this flat sanding pad on all the flat spots on the spokes to make sure I keep everything, work it kind of like a sanding block. They're so small though that a sanding block would be too cumbersome. So I found these little pads work pretty well for this. And this is what I've done to all the wheels. Gone through and just sanded along. I'm going to pause it as I go through. I'll put you back on when I move to a new area. Yeah, I got all the spokes done. When you get in here, your finger works real good on this particular wheel to get down in these curved areas. So you just work it like this. And you can usually hear the sandpaper has a pitch to it when you're sanding over anything rough. And you'll notice as you go, the sandpaper will change pitch, and that usually is a good indication you're getting it smooth. The idea is not to sand through. This actually is, I had to get 2 cans of charcoal gray and 2 cans of black. Like I say, there's basically a can, roughly a can of primer on each wheel is about what it equates to. But I put the gray down first, so as I'm sanding, it'll kind of work to let me know when I'm getting close to getting through. Because again, I'm trying to get everything as flat as possible, as smooth as possible, and work out any imperfections as I go. But these areas, the little sanding block doesn't really fit, obviously. And you don't want a lot of crud down in these lug holes, so just kind of work on them. And I may go back with a stronger grit of paper because it really picks up a lot of trash in there. But in the end, I will probably sand the majority of everything out of there. I'll get a little Scotch-Brite pad for my Dremel and go down in those holes and remove the bulk of the paint, because that, especially in these seating areas for the lug nuts, because that can cause a massive problem if you get a lot built up in there. In fact, when I go to paint, I'm going to add little plugs down in there so they don't get any more than they already have. But you just want to carefully sand around here. And yeah, this is going through a little bit, but remember I had etching primer, filler primer, and then 2 different colors of just regular primer, so I'm not burning through to any of the metal. And your finger works really well for getting down in these edges of these spokes where they're curved, and just start with one and go around to all of them. Like so. Trying not to throw the sandpaper. Alright, I'm going to pause you again. You don't want to work these too long because you can burn through the paint rather quickly on these edges. So, And then, oh, where's my little flat guy? Hang on. He fell down under the wheel there. You just start at one, go around to all your spokes, and doing the sides. You just want to pick yourself a pattern so you make sure you don't miss anything. And wet sanding is ideal because what you'll notice is if you do it dry, you'll end up picking chunks of paint as it sands off. It gets really aggressive and all these chunks of paint will come off. And then it'll clog up your paper and you'll actually be scratching instead of sanding. So yes, you do want to wet sand. That is your ideal method. Make sure you get these edges. Just use your finger, kind of curve it so that you're not too aggressive. You just want to hit them so that you don't have any texture. Essentially, that's the bulk of this, is removing all the texture and getting everything flat. The only spots we have left are these here. I just do it like this with my hand because they've got that slight curve to them. And that works beautifully. You go back and you just feel as you're going, make sure everything is smooth. All right. It's always fun trying to get around the valve stem. I know, I didn't tape them off. I don't care. I'm going to put covers on them and change out the caps anyway. So, and then these tires are not long for the world. So at that point, I'll be changing out the valve stems anyway. I'm going to get around these, the lip of the wheel real well. Your fingers work great for that. And amazingly enough, your hands almost have the best tactile feedback when it comes to telling you what is smooth and what isn't, a lot better than your eyes in certain situations. It's quite surprising. I had a body guy show me how that works. A lot of things your eyes will miss. It's just like you see all this texture with your eyes where it's sanded from one primer level into the other, and it'll fool you to think it's rough. You'll keep sanding, but your hands won't cheat you like that, and your hands will pick up what you've missed, or little spots that are defects. If there's a little paint issue that was on the original wheel that was rough, that I didn't completely get filled, you'll find stuff like that. That's essentially what I'm doing to each and every wheel multiple times over to get them as nice as possible. And the more time you spend on this prep process, the better the wheel will be when you go to paint it. So if there's any place you don't want to skip, it's on the prep. I just figured I'd share how I did it. I was looking at videos to see how a lot of people did it, and it's amazing how much stuff they either skip or cut corners on. So I just wanted to put my method out there in case anybody cares. These aren't my first wheels I've done. I did some for my Civic that were just as bad, and they came out pretty darn well. Now if I could just get the tire shops to quit ruining them. But there you go. Everything is smooth, even these edges. There's a little bit of texture where there was a wheel weight. But again, no one's going to be seeing this part. But it's smooth to remove the texture, but yet it's roughed up so that we don't have any issues with adherence with the paint. All right, let me stand this guy up. So there's the nice injured finger. Hurts like a mother. He got me good. He got my wrist too. So that's why I wasn't able to sand with this hand, because all this really hurts. Going to the doctor tomorrow. It's not a big deal. He didn't mean it. He's a good boy. He just got scared. Whoops. And here, this is wheel number 1. And you can see we're all scuffed up. You're looking for any shiny spots. Oops. Oops, 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 paper. Oh, oh. Like that. Anything that looks shiny is also going to be your indicator that you missed it. And here we did pretty good. Hit everything real nice. A little bit of trash up here. That's good. And of course, I'll be going over this with alcohol and everything and cleaning it. But you can see still where there's some little spots that I went through. Once all this dries, if I determine it's where any metal showing, I'll probably do a little primer touch-up ever so slightly. But this one, if you remember, had a lot of damage here in the barrel where it had been gouged. Look at that, it all came out much better, oops, than I anticipated. So yeah, you can still see it a little bit, but it's not nearly as bad. There we go. And I'll hit that with a hose in a minute. But this guy is wheel number 3, and this one had all the damage up in these areas. Oops, oops, oops. They're still not perfectly flat. Sadly, it'll probably show up in the gloss, but I don't think it's going to show up bad at all. Yeah, that area is a little rough. Get some water. Get a little dry there. But essentially, that's all you're doing. See, there was an area that the paint lifted right there as I was painting. That'll be an uck spot, but oh well. I may be able to get it with when I do the final clear coat cut and buff on it. That may just come out then. We'll see. I mean, if that's the worst, I am not going to complain, because number 3 was completely curb rashed all through here. There wasn't a single stitch of this rim that wasn't rashed. And yeah, he's coming out much smoother than I could have anticipated. Quite pleased, quite pleased. And the back side of him, oh, that was fun. Glad the tire's on there. My finger, not as strong as I would have liked because of that injury. But you can see everything's scuffed up. Here we are, wheel 2. Looks like I was a little light. Yeah. Oh, give him a little scuff there. A little scuff there. You can see here there's some areas. That's where that's actually texture, not texture, low spots that you're seeing that are being filled. Same thing here, all these areas. And this one had real bad gouges, and I had to sand the spokes flat. I have to remember which one it was. It was this guy. He had an issue here, here, here. Oops, oops. Me and this headlamp, I'm seeing myself and not realizing that I'm looking at the camera and causing blocks for you guys. My apologies. But so that came out good. You see here's another area where we had some issues, and that's coming out nice. It's a little dark there, which means I missed it when I was sanding. So it's just little stuff like this, little indications you'll see that you missed something. You just go back. Ain't a big deal. Just don't be in a rush. And backside of him. Let's see if I can do this smoother. Haha! Much better. And yeah, he's still got all these chew marks. Not a whole lot I can do about that, but it's much better, much better. See, everything's been hit. All these areas have been sanded. I covered up some of the, whoops, little markings like that. I'll have to put another piece of tape on it. It lost its adhesion. But yeah, so that's where I'm at now. Again, sorry it got dark on me. I just didn't think y'all wanted to hear the weed eater going full tilt. Let's see how this one came out that I did with y'all. Got everything there. Oh, looking good on the inside. So, all right. I'll show y'all how I'm going to tape everything up in stages, and we'll go over that. Huh. Looks like we got a little bit of an artifact over here. I'm sorry about that. Nope. There, that way. I don't know what that is. Huh. No idea. Sorry, guys. Anyway, y'all got to see the bulk of it, but I just wanted to share that with you. Doing this in stages. Sorry if the videos are long, but I'd rather give y'all more information than not enough, in case any of y'all want to do the same. All right. Have a good night.